Judge Jeanine Pirro.
She's the outspoken host. Judge Jeanine Pirro is dominating the headlines right now.
This is the Judge Jeanine Tunnel to Towers Foundation Sunday Morning Show. Now, here's Judge Jeanine Pirro.
Welcome, everyone, to the Judge Jeanine Tunnel to Towers Foundation Show. It is the Sunday of a terrific weekend, the 4th of July weekend, and the sun is shining, so I'm a happy camper. You know that. I got to have sun. If I don't have sun, it's miserable. But anyway, I hope you're enjoying your day, and I want you to know that I am all fired up this morning to talk about what's going on in this country, and I'm just going to hit it. Okay? Joe Biden is an incompetent fool. That's the end of it. I don't want to hear that he had a cold or he had jet lag. The jet lag, of course, after 12 days returning from Europe, the guy's got jet lag. I don't know about you, but I get off a plane and go right to work. When I came back, I think it was from Israel. I literally, it was a long flight. I don't know, it was 12 hours. I literally got off the plane and went to work. What was I going to go home for? You know, the truth is, if you love your job, you love what you do, and you're capable of doing it, that's what people do. But this guy had to sleep. He had to have a garage hangar with people running in and out with golf carts to prep him. And he's only viable now, we hear, between 10 and 4. But in between 10 and 4, the guy had to take a nap when he was getting ready for the debate. This man cannot run our country. Period. He is incapable. And Carl Bernstein comes out and he says, I hear from people close to the president that he's had, I don't know, what was it, 15 to 20 incidents like this in the past year. I mean, come on, folks. How much do you love this country? These people cannot be in charge. They are people who are in it for themselves, for power and money. And the two that are pushing Joe to stay in the race are Jill, his wife, who I think should be charged with endangering an elderly person, and his son, Hunter, that Joe Biden thinks is the most intelligent person he's ever known. And now we hear that Hunter Biden is going in on meetings and getting involved in those meetings. The first day, Karine Jean-Pierre says, the White House press secretary, she says, no, we just kind of walked him into the meeting. It's a holiday week. Everybody knows family comes in. What are you talking about? He lives there. And now Hunter's in on the meetings. What are they doing? What are they scheming up? And when Karine Jean-Pierre, and I'm going to ask Joey Jones, who's one of the guests today, she comes on and she literally is gaslighting America. But folks, I want you to know that Karine Jean-Pierre wrote an article on February 17th of 2020, writing what is like working for a doomed presidential candidate. And this is a quote from her own article. You show up at the office, you're pumped, you attack the phones, you deliberately put pep in your voice. Everything is going great. We would blatantly lie to the movers and shakers we were calling. Folks, I want to tell you that again. We would blatantly lie to the movers and the shakers we were calling. That's Karine Jean-Pierre. That is a White House press secretary. You think she's doing it now? I don't think there's any question about it. And so now what you've got is a president who's been exposed, and he is an individual who is incapable of running this country. We know he hasn't run the country. And then what he does on the 4th of July, he goes on a radio station, a black radio station, WURD, and he says, I am the first black woman to serve with a black president. On either count, he's wrong. So I just think that it is time for them to bring out the 25th Amendment, remove this guy from office. He is a danger. Our enemies are licking their chops. I'm telling you, Putin would never have invaded Ukraine when Trump was there. And there would be peace in the Middle East, and Hamas would not have attacked Israel if Trump was there. In fact, when Trump was president, we had the Abraham Accords, right? In the Arab world, there were peace treaties with Israel. There was business being conducted with Israel. And now the left could care less about all that. They just want Joe. And now that Joe, we know that his lapses are frequent and increasingly common. and it's not about a cold, and it's not about he knows how to do the job. Now that we know he's inept, why is he still there? Why? Because the Bidens love power. And the Bidens, it's in their interest to have power. We saw it. We saw it from the time that Joe Biden was a senator. And the amazing part of all this, folks, is in light of the Supreme Court's immunity decision, immunity, absolute immunity for a president from criminal liability if he is dealing with official acts or acts that are central to his role as president that the Constitution gives him or federal statute gives him. That is absolute immunity. And presumptive immunity on official acts that, of course, can be rebutted. So, but what do the Democrats say? This Jack Smith, who's a prosecutor in D.C. and in Florida, he's going to keep prosecuting Donald Trump even if he wins for president. He'll keep prosecuting him from the time he's president-elect until the time he takes office. That's how much they hate. But the good news, folks, is that the July 11th sentencing for Donald Trump has been delayed, pending motions for vacature of the conviction based upon the Supreme Court decision. So this morning, I'm going to be talking to some really smart people. Joey Jones from Fox News. Everybody knows who Joey is. He's a very smart former Marine veteran who I love and has a lot of common sense. And Craig Shirley, who's been a political consultant for decades, worked for Reagan, wrote a myriad of books on Ronald Reagan. My favorite is Rendezvous with Destiny. And how does he see this in the history of everything that's been going on since the Reagan administration? So we're all charged up here. And never forget, that's a commitment we made on 9/11. Honor it by donating $11 a month to the Tunnel to Towers Foundation at T2T.org. That's T, the number 2, T.org.
Now, it's time for Protecting Your Investments, sponsored by Colonial Metals Group. Here's Judge Jeanine.
Hi, I'm Jeanine Pirro, and this is Protecting Your Investments, sponsored by Colonial Metals Group. Today, we've been talking about this country and how important it is to have a commander-in-chief who has his wits about him, who knows what he's doing, because we all depend upon him, because our enemies are looking at us and licking their chops. Well, I also want you to protect your investment in Colonial Metals. Colonial Metals are an opportunity for you to be able to access your money and do it in a way where your money is guaranteed for the future.
It's the Judge Jeanine Show.
This is Greg Kelly for Priority Gold. What does it mean to be America's precious metals dealer? It means that you're in touch with the hearts and minds of those who love this country, value our freedom, and want to protect the future. Priority Gold is that precious metals dealer. They've helped thousands of Americans back their retirement with solid gold and silver. Call Priority Gold at 888-506-6439. Receive free shipping, free storage, a free investment guide, and one of the best purchase experiences in the industry. Call now or go to PriorityGold.com.
Hi, it's Lou Dobbs for Priority Gold, America's precious metals dealer. These are volatile times with high inflation, soaring debt, wars on multiple continents, and rising financial stress. Central banks are buying gold to diversify their reserves, so are many Americans. Call Priority Gold and find out how precious metals can help you diversify your portfolio. They're highly rated and happy to help. Call 1-866-303-6357 or get a free gold guide at PriorityGoldGuide.com. That's PriorityGoldGuide.com.
This is the Jeanine Pirro Show. Now, here's Judge Jeanine Pirro.
Welcome back to the Judge Jeanine Tunnel to Towers Foundation Show. Joining us now is that Marine Corps veteran, Fox News contributor, author, host at Fox News, Johnny Joey Jones. Please join me in welcoming Johnny Joey Jones to the Judge Jeanine Tunnel to Towers Foundation show. Now, I'm sure most of you know who Joey Jones is. He is a Marine Corps veteran who has honored us with his service. He suffered a life-changing injury in Afghanistan, resulting in a loss of both of his legs above the knees. And I got to tell you, folks, I've never seen anyone so carefree in my life who deals with it every day as though it never happened. Since his recovery, he's dedicated himself to improving the lives of all veterans. And he is author of a book, everybody, called The Unbroken Bonds of Battle. And of course, he was a Marine bomb technician when tragedy befell him, but it hasn't stopped him one little bit. So, Joey, I just figured that today is the Sunday after the 4th of July, and I thought we'd have a few laughs. It was quite a week this week, finding out that Joe Biden really isn't cognitively declined. He was just tired. He had a cold and he had jet lag, even though he had 12 days to recover from jet lag. What do you think of how the Democrats are handling this whole thing with our commander-in-chief, your commander-in-chief, Joey?
Well, Judge, I think I would say they're not handling it at all, and that's a problem they're going to have to deal with. I mean, the news cycle changes quick, and we may sit here 6 weeks from now and this doesn't feel like as big of a deal. But when you're on the right, when you're a conservative or someone that is skeptical of the Democrats and the Biden administration, you've seen this and said something about it for a really long time. If you're a regular American, you've seen it. Maybe you laughed it off. I mean, we forget so quickly he was, quote, crazy Uncle Joe under the Obama administration because he said ridiculous things and did ridiculous things and looked confused. I gave a personal anecdote on Fox and Friends back on Friday about meeting President Obama and him and the difference between the two 12, 13 years ago. And so here we are, and it really feels like they've spit in our faces and told us it was raining. We see him freeze up and do these things. I mean, I'd love to get the exclusive interview with the Easter Bunny now and find out, how if you remember that. That would be the one to pull right there, because this is a whole team of folks who have tried to keep this a terribly kept secret.
Well, it's one thing, to keep secrets. It's another thing to allow that secret to run this country to the extent that he is running the country, Joey. But, we've got another, 4 months, July, August, September. We got another 4 months before this election and another 6 months, to be honest with you, before a new president comes in, unless you think Biden is going to win or assume that he's even going to run. But there's a lot of bad guys out there who know that they've got 4 months, 5 months, 6 months to do whatever it is they want to do. And I personally am furious at the fact that the Democrats, for all their concern with power, could care less about the fact that we are vulnerable right now, more vulnerable, I think, than we've ever been.
Yeah, it seems like the blessing and the curse is when Biden speaks, no matter what he's speaking about, we don't then go and dissect and discuss the policy. We dissect and discuss how he said it and if he got it out of his mouth. And what that means is we're not talking about the policy. We're not talking about the fact that even as someone who seems to not have it all there, he or those around him have been pretty successful at passing huge spending bills, Green New Deal bills, at turning our country into a progressive, bankruptcy. And so we really need to pay attention to that. I think I made this point on the 5 with you last week. We can't ignore the fact that he has been effective in ruining our country, whether we think he was all there or not. So maybe the conversation shouldn't be how bad he's doing as cognitively. Maybe the conversation should be how effective he's been at making really bad policy.
Well, he has been effective in making really bad policy. We see it with the illegal immigrants. And, I got to tell you, Joey, they have been so smart on the left. You're a xenophobe. You're a racist. You're this, you're that. And they shut us down. It was the same. You're an Islamophobe if you worry about someone cutting your throat off. And obviously, Islam is a peaceful religion, but there is a segment of it where they want to kill you as the infidel. Okay. So, but to go back to the reality is, he has been in a position to endanger us and continues to be and they don't care about it. But what's the deal with Jill Biden? Well, how do you read her?
Well, I kind of go back. One, I try not to read her because I think the Bidens as a collective are just an odd group of people. They seem to have this kind of outsider mentality, and now they're huddling together. But here's what I think. They've been together for decades, and he's had these aspirations that entire time. I don't sever her intentions from his. He may be in worse shape now. He may be in a place where he doesn't even fully understand. But she's not doing anything with him that he hasn't contrived with her to do their entire career. I mean, it isn't like he changed his playbook. His entire career has been built on, redefining history, explaining history, taking something that happened and basically lying about it. And that's still what he's doing. And she's just making sure he gets to where he's supposed to be and continues to do it. I don't let him off the hook for any of it. And that's one thing, like, I understand the appeal to empathy or sympathy. I understand that. But this is a man with 50 years of being not a good person, of 50 years of treating people badly, of taking the tragedies in his family and using them for political gain. I don't let him off the hook for that. I mean, if this is karma or what have you, I'm not trying to see anyone suffer. I don't know if he's suffering or not, but I don't let him off the hook for his intentions just because he may be in a place now to where he's not fully intact.
Yeah, well, you know what, Joey, you're a better person than I am. As far as I'm concerned, the man has been a liar and he's been a crook his whole political career, and that's how he rose to the top. But let's talk about Kamala. What's the deal with her? I
think she's the heir apparent. I don't think technically it's possible to jump over her with someone. They've got to keep her on the ticket. This is supposing he comes off before the nomination. It's her. If it's not Joe Biden, it's him. We saw them out there watching the fireworks. He grabs her hand and pulls it up to the sky. They smile. I think that's him letting everyone know that if it's not him, it's her. She would have his backing. That's what I think. I think that whether or not he continues to the nomination depends on really two things. One, can he physically do it? And two, will the donors stay around long enough to afford to run for president? Because that's the big story this week is a lot of major donors have pulled out. But I think the person that can save a lot of that is Kamala. As conservatives, we look at her and we see someone that hasn't done a whole lot. But if you're already voting for Joe Biden, you're not upset by that. I mean, I don't know why, but you think that her intentions as the borders were pure, even if ineffective. You're not upset by the policies. She inherits all of those legislative wins that he's gotten done in his tenure, and she was the deciding vote on some of those, so she can tout that. I think that getting her media training is a lot easier than getting him cognitively developed or cognitively conscious. And so it does worry me because, we sit here and 47% of people that vote are going to vote for a Democrat, no matter if it's a sack of potatoes. So the voter turnout comes down to, can you get people re-energized? And maybe she can do that. I'm not saying she can and she will and she is, but I think that Republicans would be naive to not worry at least. And Donald Trump needs to campaign and run like he's behind in the polls. And that solves all problems if you support him.
Joey Jones, we love you. We thank you for joining us on the Tunnel to Towers Foundation show. God bless you, and thank you for your service to this country, Joey.
Love you, Judge. Thank you so much for inviting me on.
Love you too, Joey, and thanks for joining us. And coming up right here on the Red Apple Audio Network, I will be speaking with New York Times bestselling author, presidential historian, and Ronald Reagan biographer, Craig Shirley. It's all coming up here on the Red Apple Audio Network.
This is the Judge Jeanine Show. This is the Jeanine Pirro Show. Now, here's Judge Jeanine Pirro.
Welcome back to the Judge Jeanine Tunnel to Towers Foundation show. Joining us now is a New York Times bestselling author, a presidential historian, a Ronald Reagan biographer, and a consultant for many politicians, including myself once many, many years ago. Joining us now is Craig Shirley. Join me in welcoming him to the Judge Jeanine Tunnel to Towers Foundation show. Now, just real quickly, if you are at all a Ronald Reagan fan, as I think most Americans are, Craig Shirley is the penultimate person familiar with Ronald Reagan. Both he and his wife worked for President Reagan, and he's written 11 books. 6 of them are on Reagan. And one of the most important is called Rendezvous with Destiny. So I am so excited to have you on, Craig Shirley. So thanks for being with us. And I want to start by asking you, how many years have you been in politics, Craig Shirley?
I was going door to door for Barry Goldwater in 1964 when I was 8 years old.
Yeah.
So pretty much my whole life. My whole life.
Yeah, all right. So let's fast forward from when you were 8 years old to the news of today with a president who I believe has cognitively declined, a White House that has protected him and condemned us for even questioning his mental abilities, to, the fact that it looks like the Democrat Party, although I've never seen anyone more in lockstep, is having second thoughts. What is your analysis of what's going on?
Well, I want to step back. I feel bad for the country. I feel very, very bad for the country. But beyond from the political aspect, is that Joe Trump decline. Everybody can see it. There's a constitutional matter here, though, Jeanine, and that is that when the founders and framers were writing the Constitution, and they put in the First Amendment, the freedom of the press, oddly jammed in there because most of it, things in there, personal freedoms, freedom of religion, freedom of assembly, things like that. And they put in freedom of the press because they saw the press. They didn't like the broadsheets and the pamphleteers of the era, but they saw the press as a valuable ally of the American people against their government. And it worked for 200 years. It worked, because, John Adams imprisoned newspaper editors who displeased him. Abraham Lincoln did the same during the Civil War. John Kennedy canceled the subscription to the old New York Herald Tribune because he didn't like the Republican editorial policy. FDR often denounced the media who opposed him, the newspaper, especially like Judge McCormick for the Chicago papers. The point is that it worked. They were working against. They were questioning the not the authority, but they were questioning the actions of the government, which is what they're supposed to do. That all changed with the advent of Obama, and now it's only accelerated under Biden. And we see it now.
Craig, I'm gonna stop you right there for a second. I agree with you. I think a lot of the change started with Obama. But why was the press that was, always considered the fourth estate? Why did the press for so long, with a healthy tension with presidents and with political parties, why was it all in with Obama? What happened?
Well, I mean, escaped the fact it was the first African-American major candidate for office, first African-American elected. Plus, they were with him ideologically. So between his race, between his ideology, they let the veneer slip away, and we saw them for what they were. They were just, tools of the state. They were propagandists for the state, and so they apologized and covered up for Obama many, many times. And that's only accelerated now under Biden, is that, they covered up his obvious infirmities for a number of years, and it only was laid bare in the debate last Thursday when the American people saw for themselves what the press knew, but the press refused to report on. And that is that the mental decline, the sharp mental decline, the descent into dementia of Joe Biden.
And, the amazing part of it is on Fox News. We would talk about it. It was obvious to us. And the White House actually came out with a term called cheap fakes. And they were putting together a task force on cheap fakes. I mean, they have spent so much time, Craig Shirley, trying to make sure that the American people buy into Joe Biden when you and I both know that the reason he was in that bunker, and I won't even go into the COVID lies that forced America almost to a breaking point economically, but the COVID lies and the bunkers camp strategy, and then I think they called it the Saran wrap strategy or something. They were going to keep him protected, and yet we knew it, and they made fun of us. They said we were laughing, and then all of a sudden the press is like, wow, we didn't know this. Do you believe that?
No, don't get me started on COVID, because that'll go into
I know.
Corporations. Well, just say one thing: is that the reason we're both populists is because we question power. We question, corporate power. We question governmental power. That's the true meaning of a populist. Is that they don't, because concentrations of power inevitably lead to corruption and the diminution of personal freedoms. And we saw the worst of it with COVID, where the government was in league with big corporations, big government in league with big corporations against us. And, there's an old saying that, when the elephants are fighting, the mice are at risk. But when the elephants are making love, the mice aren't much safer. Well, we weren't safe because big government was in bed with big corporations against us, the American people. I want to say one thing too: is thank God for Fox and for Washington Times and the Washington Examiner and alternative media, because it's grown up and it's grown bigger, more important in response to the failures of the liberal media. Everybody's drooling over this supposed interview with George Stephanopoulos and Biden. We both know it's going to be a fraud. It's going to be heavily edited. It's going to be a bunch of softball questions. Joe Biden is card-carrying member of the establishment. It's going to be a nothing burger.
Well, I remember George Stephanopoulos was interviewing Hillary Clinton when he had given $25,000 to the Clinton Foundation and didn't even disclose that. But, in moving on from it and the fact that now we've got the Democrat Party and, they're complaining now. This is what I love, Craig Shirley. They're complaining because Trump isn't saying anything. Finally, Trump has figured out how not to step on good news. And they're like, why isn't he saying anything? Well, what do you want him to say?
Napoleon once said, never interrupt your enemy when he's making a mistake.
Yeah, exactly. And, I'll tell you, I think that I don't care what anybody says. I thought Trump did great at the debate. I think he was focused. He was laser sharp. I think there was only one point when he looked at Biden, and that was when Biden had that, that gaffe where he ended up by saying he killed Medicare. I mean, no, he said
that bacon.
He didn't say he killed it. Trump came back and said you killed it. He said he beat Medicare. But going forward now, what are the options for the Democrat Party right now?
Nothing really. They're on they picked their horse. Is that only Biden and to an extent Jill Biden, with her influence on her husband, can tell the delegates, no, I don't want to be your nominee. The delegates and the alternates are locked in. They have to vote for Joe Biden. They're going to ride this horse, win or lose. They're going to ride this horse. They don't have an alternative. I mean, Democratic voters have an alternative. They have RFK Jr. or Donald Trump or stay home. They have many options, but the Democratic Party itself doesn't have an option.
Okay, so those super delegates cannot be released unless Joe Biden says, I release you. So if he's locked in, then we've got a scenario where, he's the candidate. But does that still matter at an open convention, Craig Shirley?
No, I mean, yes, open convention, anything can happen, but you have to go through so many machinations. It's not easy. A political party is designed to be controlled by one man once he gets the nomination, to keep it under control, to not let a Chicago 68 happen again. Is that they've written the rules now so that it's almost airtight to bow down to the nominee, and only he can affect the outcome. Really, the delegates can't. It's on autopilot now.
Okay, so on the 4th of July, a couple days ago, President Biden was on a black radio station, WURD, and he said that he was the first black woman to serve with a black president. I mean, if he slipped on the first part, he still slipped on the second part, too.
Yeah. He's very confused.
He is confused. And so now they've got Kamala. And again, we haven't even talked about the campaign, the fund, the money that they have. Only Kamala's got that money. It's Biden Harris. They'd have to go through all kinds of machinations to get that money away from Biden Harris. I don't know that they can, but let's assume that she's the candidate. She's worse than he is.
Yes. Yeah. So it's not just the fact that he's a doddering old senile fool. It's that he's a liberal doddering old senile fool whose policies have been abject failures. He's failed with the border. He's failed with inflation. He's failed with the crime in the streets. He's failed at every level. Nothing. What can he put his money? They talk about his success. What success? There's been no success except spending a lot of money for his cronies. That's
right.
it. That's it. And spending money, any moron can spend money, even a doddering old fool like Biden.
But, what's amazing to me is that Biden is, in 1988, he had to drop out of the presidential race because he was lying, because he took the words of Neil Kinnock and literally word for word and said it was him, his family was in the coal mines and all this nonsense. He's lied repeatedly. And I can't believe that the Democrats and the mainstream media, Craig Shirley, are good with all this. They're good with the fact that we've got a guy that Xi Jinping can wrap around his little finger. If he freezes, and I can't imagine he hasn't in a meeting with these people, Putin, would Putin have moved on Ukraine when Trump was there?
No.
That would never have happened.
And Hamas would not have attacked Israel. Hamas would not have attacked Israel.
Right. There was peace in the Middle East, the Abraham Accords.
Exactly. That brings up such a good point, Judge. Is that who would have thought in 2024 there would be how many Arab embassies are now in Israel? 4?
Yep.
Yeah, 4. Yep. For something like that, he should have won the Nobel Peace Prize. But he's a conservative, so they're not going to give it to a conservative. They're going to give it to a liberal like Obama for just showing up.
Exactly.
Like Woody Allen said, 90% of life is just showing up. Well, Obama just showed up and got a Nobel Peace Prize. What Douglas MacArthur did with Japan, she should have earned the Nobel Peace Prize, but MacArthur was conservative, so there's no way they're going to give it to him.
Well, when are we going to change this, Craig Shirley? When is being conservative being, considered American? Because I'll tell you right now, Donald Trump is going to win this next election.
Yes.
Down.
I think we've changed it already. Is that people are recognizing that conservatism is a force for good. It's an ideology for good, and liberalism is sad, failed religion that is just organized around power. That's simply the only goal of liberalism is the acquisition and maintenance and extension of power. That's all it's about.
Yeah, and you know what? That's a sad commentary. And before my last question on Reagan, Jill Biden, she knows the man is addled, inept, incapable. He was incapable of 1988 of an original thought, which is why he's lied throughout his whole career. Whether it's Uncle Boozy getting eaten by, where was he? On what island? Yeah. And then he says, I was the first one in my family to graduate from college. And then he talks about his grandfather who played college football.
Right.
And I could go on and on with this. And, if that were Donald Trump, they'd hang him in the Village Square, which they've tried to do anyway with the Department of Justice. And thank God for that Supreme Court ruling.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
What about Reagan? How do you compare a Donald Trump to Ronald Reagan or to conservatism?
Look, they're two separate men. They're two distinct men. They have their own personalities. They have their own persona. But they both approach issues in the same fashion. They're both Federalists. They both are populist. They're both conservative. They're both pro-life. The same issue cluster that Donald Trump is running on, which is shrinking government or getting rid of corruption or all in government, those other things, they're the same things Reagan ran on in 1980. So that's how I square that circle. Is that they are, Trump is an heir to the issues that Reagan brought to the Republican Party. The Republican Party before 1980, sometimes it was for free trade, sometimes it was for high tariffs, like with Smoot-Hawley. Sometimes It was for war, with the Vietnam War, and sometimes it wasn't. Sometimes it was for balanced budget. In 1972, Senator Ted Kennedy and Senator Walter Mondale said, we need to stimulate the economy with middle-class tax cuts. And Richard Nixon said, no, the way to stimulate the economy is with massive federal spending.
Oh.
I mean, what a role reversal.
Anyway, Craig Shirley, I want to thank you for joining us on the Judge Jeanine Tunnel to Towers Foundation show. And it's good talking to you. And everybody, you take a look at Craig's books on Ronald Reagan. They are worth reading because Ronald Reagan was just such a star. All right, Craig Shirley, thanks for joining us. Take care.
Thank you, Judge, so much.
All right,
take care.
Take care. And never forget, that's a promise we made to Tunnel to Towers on its mission to do good in honor of America's heroes. Donate $11 a month at T2T.org. That's T2T.org.
This is the Judge Jeanine Show. This is the Jeanine Pirro Show. Now, here's Judge Jeanine Pirro.
Okay, now it's time for me to gavel out with my closing argument. Well, you've heard it. You've heard it from Joey Jones and Craig Shirley. We are in a situation in this country that we've never found ourselves in before. A president repeatedly under indictment, taking away $500 million of his money. As an American instinctively that is the kind of thing that is done in third world countries. There's something wrong about that. The Supreme Court came out and said, yes, there is. You cannot do that to a president and charge him with a crime when he is engaging in official duties or when he is engaging in roles that are central to his presidency. Otherwise, we would indict Barack Obama for that drone strike that killed American civilians in the Middle East. Okay, he killed Americans with a drone strike. Now, that's not at his core power, but nobody talks about that. But what I want you to remember is the fact that they have done everything they can to destroy this former president, and he's still standing. He's still focused. He can still give a speech. And in fact, on the 4th of July, he said he wants to have a no-holds-barred debate with Joe Biden where the two of them are sitting on a stage and engaging in a conversation. He said that way, for once and for all, we should show the American people that what we're about. And he said that I have the answer. This is his quote, Donald Trump. I have the answer to crooked Joe Biden's incompetence puzzle. Let's do another debate, a discussion with the two of us on stage. He posted that on Truth Social on the night of the 4th of July. Folks, the 25th Amendment needs to be used to move this man out of the Oval Office. We cannot afford to have someone as president who is a danger to this country. We see it on the border. We see it in the economy, with inflation, with immigration crime. And we see it where we're literally supporting two wars, Ukraine and Israel. Something's wrong. None of this happened with Donald Trump. None of this. Obama was president when Putin took Crimea. But when Trump was there, Putin didn't make a move. When Trump was there, there was none of this talk by China and going into Taiwan and all these exercises. The truth is, America deserves better. We deserve better than a corrupt, incompetent family who's filling their own coffers with tens of millions of dollars at our expense. We're out of time, folks. Make sure you join us back here next week, same time, same place. And folks, it is a very interesting time in America. You cannot deny that. Hopefully we'll have a better idea of what the Democrats are going to do with the cognitively declined Joe Biden. Have a great day, everybody.
Hi, it's Lou Dobbs for Priority Gold, America's precious metals dealer. These are volatile times with high inflation, soaring debt, wars on multiple continents, and rising financial stress. Central banks are buying gold to diversify their reserves, so are many Americans. Call Priority Gold and find out how precious metals can help you diversify your portfolio. They're highly rated and happy to help. Call 1-866-303-6357 or get a free gold guide at PriorityGoldGuide.com. That's PriorityGoldGuide.com.